In different websites, you might have seen this feature called slider tabs. Even YouTube, they do use this kind of feature. So in this video, with the help of vanilla JavaScript, I'll show you how to build these slider tabs. Let me show you the demo. As you can see, this is our slider tabs. For our slider tabs, I'm giving 4 different features. Talking about the first feature, whenever you are clicking any specific tab, you will be able to bring it to the center of your slider tabs with that smooth scrolling effect. Talking about the second feature, there is left and right arrow icon. Whenever you are clicking any specific icon, you will be able to get that slider effect. Talking about the third feature, based on that scrolling value, you will be able to show and hide your left and right arrow icon. Talking about the fourth feature, you will be able to scroll horizontally as well as vertically. So are you excited for this project? Without further ado, let's start. Hello and namaste everyone, this is Jitsaru with Coding Design. Welcome to our channel. If you are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. As you can see, I have already created index.html file. Within that, I have written some basic HTML code. Now let's change the title. For the title, I am giving slider tabs like YouTube using vanilla JavaScript, or you can call it Scrollable Navbar. Now within the body tag, let's create a div with class name slider. And within that div, I am creating another div with class name icon. Inside that, let's create a span with class name left arrow. And within that, I am writing ampersand LT semicolon. So with the help of this HTML entity, you'll be able to get less than symbol, or you can call it icon, whatever you want to call it. So now let's select this code and duplicate it. Let's change that class name to right arrow, and also let's change that HTML entity to GT that represents greater than symbol. Now in between these two less than and greater than symbol, let's create another list with class name tabs. And within that, I'm creating list items with class name tab. I want to create 11 list items, so I'm writing asterisk 11, and if I hit tab button, then you'll get this whole code. So for the first list, I'm giving all. For the second list, let's write my channel name, Coding Design. Similarly, for other list items, you can give your own different categories. Okay. Now with the help of live server extension, let's open this index.html file in our default browser. So as you can see, these two were the icon that I was talking about, and in between that you can see different unordered list items. Now let's create a style.css file. Just below the title tag, I am giving a link for our style.css file. In our style.css file, within the root pseudo class, I'm going to declare different color variables. So for the primary color variable, I want to give this dark blue color, and for the secondary, I'm giving this lighter version of same color. Now for the universal selector, in order to prevent this browser's default margin and padding, for the margin and padding, I'm giving 0. Similarly, for the box sizing, let's give border box. And also for the font family, I'm giving sans serif. Now let's style the body tag. For the body, let's give minimum height of 100 VH. Similarly, for the background color, I want to give this sky blue color. If I give display to grid and place items to center, then in your browser, as you can see, every content that is brought exactly at the center of your browser. Now let's style this div with class name slider. So for the class slider, I want to give width of 80 VW. Similarly, for the background color, let's give that primary variable where I have stored that dark blue color. Similarly, for the text color, let's give white color. For the padding, I'm giving 1 rem. And also I want to give some rounded corners around that box. So for the border radius, let's give 0.6 rem. Now let's style this another list with class name tabs. So for the class tabs, I want to give maximum width. So for the maximum width, let's give 100%. That means I'm giving same 80 VW width that I have gave for the with class name slider. Similarly, let's remove that bullet points. For that, I'm giving list style to none. And also I'm giving display to flex. Now you can see everything is brought in the single line. Let's give some gap between these list items. So for the gap, I'm giving 0.8 rem. And also you can see everything is overflowing. So for the overflow X, I'm giving auto. Now you can see you are able to scroll horizontally, but I want to hide that horizontal scroll bar. So for that, let's copy the same code and paste it down there. And along with that class tab, I can give pseudo element that is called scroll bar. I need to use the WebKit prefix. So now for the scroll bar, let's give display to none. So now you can hide that horizontal scroll bar. Now let's style list items with class name tab. As you can see, these words are breaking down into new line. So let's bring it to the single line. For that, for the class tab, you can give white space of no wrap. Now you can see everything is brought into the single line. Similarly, let's give some background color. I'm giving this secondary color. That means lighter version of that dark blue color. And also I want to give padding top and bottom 2.5 rem, and for the left and right 1 rem. Similarly, let's change the font size. I want to give font size of 1 rem. I want to give some kind of fields structure. So for that, I'm giving border radius of 1.3 rem. So now you can see our tab is looking pretty cool. When you take your mouse near to that tab, I want to change its background color. So for that, let's copy the same code and paste it down there. So now when you hover class tab, at that time, let's change background color. Let's give this white color with some transparent value, and also let's give cursor to pointer so that you will be able to get that pointing head icon. And also I'm giving some transitions. So for that, let's give transition duration of 0.2 second, and for the timing function, let's give ease in out. Now you can see when you hover, you'll be able to get that smooth transition. Similarly, what if I give active class along with that class tab? So in our styled CSS file, whenever you are giving that class active for our class tab, so remember there mustn't be any kind of space, I mean white space. So at that time, let's change the background color. I'm giving background color of this white smoke color, and also let's change text color to this black color. So as you can see, for the class tab, whenever you are giving that class active, you will be able to get that white background color tab. What if I give same active class for another tab in your browser? Did you see that? So later on, with the help of JavaScript code, we'll be able to add this class active for our list items. So let's leave it some comment. It's time to style these left and right arrows. Before that, I need to style this div with class name icon. So for the class icon, let's give position of absolute. As you know, class slider, that is the parent element, so let's give position of relative. Now you can copy this same code and paste it down there. Now for the class icon, I'm giving pseudo class first child, so that represents our first div with class name icon, and you can select this code and duplicate it. Let's change that first child to last child. Now it represents our second div with class name icon, where we have span with class name right arrow. So for the last child, let's give right to 0. And also for the class icon, let's give top to 50%. And if I give transform, translate y to -50%, then I'll be able to bring our content exactly at the center of our div with class name slider, as you can see. And also I'm giving width of 6 rem. For the height, let's give 100%. Similarly, for the icon's first child, let's give background. I'm giving this linear gradient color. For the angle, let's give to right. For the first color, let's give this primary color. And for the second, I'm giving transparent. Let's duplicate this code and bring it to that last child. Let's change that linear gradient colors direction to left. Now in your browser, you may not see any difference. So for now, instead of that primary color, let's change it to gold. Okay, for the first child, I need to give their left to 0. Now it is in proper position. Similarly, for the last child as well, I want to give that first color to gold. As you can see, there is some kind of blur, cloudy, whatever you want to call it, some kind of that effect. Similarly, for the class icon, let's give padding of 0.5 rem. And also I want to give display flex and align items to center, so that I can bring less than and greater symbol exactly at the center. Now you can see our icons, they are exactly at the center. But if you look at that greater than symbol, this is not the position that I want. I want it to be at the right side. So for that, as you know, justify content, by default it is given flex start. So let's change that justify content to flex end. Now you can see this is the exact position that I want. Similarly, now let's copy the same code and paste it down there. So now for the class icon, along with that, when you give class height, at that time I want to give display to none. So now in your index.html file, for the div with class name icon, if I give another class name height, did you see that? Now you'll be able to hide that icon. So again, this class height we will add and remove with the help of JavaScript code. So I'm leaving there some comments. Now let's style this specific class name left arrow and right arrow. So please don't forget to give the comma. As you know, span tag, that is the inline element. So in order to give proper width and height, I need to give display to inline block. So now we can give the proper width and height. For the width and height, I am giving 2.4 rem. Now I want to give background color. For the background color, let's give this white color with some transparent value. Now you can change that linear background color. I want to change that gold color to primary color. I want to give border radius of 50% so that I can make circular shape. But you can see our greater than symbol that is not exactly at the center of our circle. So for that, in order to bring horizontally center, you can give text align to center, and in order to bring vertically center, you need to give line height. Okay. But I want to give font shorthand property. So for the first value, that is the font width, I'm giving 300. For the font size, let's give 2 rem. And if I give slash, then now you'll be able to give their line height. So this is really important. Okay, so for the line height, I'm giving the same height value that I have gave, that is the 2.4 rem at the top, as you can see there. And now finally you have to give this font family. So for the font family, let's keep this Poppins along with that sans serif. Okay, I think I need to change that font width to 200. Okay, this is exactly the size that I want. Now you can cut that background color, and now whenever you are hovering that span tag, that means whenever you are hovering that left and right arrow icons at that time, I want to give that same background color. And also let's give cursor to pointer so that you will get that pointing head icon. Now you can see when you hover, you will be able to get that white transparent circle, but there is some problem. As you can see, arrow that is blending with our background. So in order to make it more visible, for the linear gradient color, where I have give their primary as our first color, you can give there some percentage. I want to give 45%. Now in your browser, did you see that our icons, they are clearly visible? So this is exactly what I want. You can take it to the full screen by pressing F11 key. Now you can see it's looking pretty cool. Now we have to add different functionalities with the help of JavaScript code. So let's create JavaScript file. I'm creating script.js file. And just below the link that we have given for our style.css file, let's create a script tag, and I'm giving attribute differ. Okay, this is really necessary because I'm giving our script tag within our head element. And for the source, let's give a script.js file. In our script.js file, now we need to select this both div with class name icon, similarly on other list with class name tabs, and also all the list items with class name tab. So in the script.js file, let's create constant variable tab, and I'm assigning document.querySelector. So we are selecting on other list with class name tabs, and I'm using their comma so that I don't need to use constant keyword multiple times. You can copy this whole code and paste it down there. Let's change that variable name to badges, and I'm giving their query selector all. It's because we are selecting all the list items with class name tab. Now instead of that document, you can give their tab, or you can leave that document, it will work. And instead of that class tabs, let's give class tab. Similarly, I'm creating another variable icons, and I'm assigning document.querySelector all. So once again, we are selecting divs with class name icon. So now whenever you are clicking any specific tab, I need to change its background color to white. So for that, I need to iterate all these tabs. In order to iterate, I'm using for each loop. So for the array, you can give their badges, and for each element, I'm representing it as badge, and within that callback, I'm writing badge dot, I'm giving add event listener. So we are listening to the click event. And let's give arrow function as callback. Let's write badge.classlist.add. So we are adding class active. In your browser, as you can see, when you're clicking any specific tab, you'll be able to change that white background color, but there is some problem. Whenever you are clicking any specific tab, I want to give that background white for that specific tab only. So you can duplicate the same code, and instead of that badge, you can write there tab.querySelector. So we can select the class active. And now instead of adding that class active, first of all, we'll remove that class active. So now with the help of this code, whenever you are clicking any specific tab, at the time, first of all, we'll select any list items with class name active, and we'll remove that active class from our list item, and later on we'll add class active for any specific list item that we have clicked. So once again, in our browser, did you see that? Now you will be able to give that white background color for any specific tab that you have clicked. Now let's add the feature, something like whenever you are scrolling horizontally at the time, if you reach at the end, I want to remove that right arrow icon, and also we'll do the same thing for our left icon. in our standard CSS file, as you can see, along with class icon, whenever you are giving class hide, at the time we are giving their display none. So with the help of that class hide, you'll be able to show and hide that icons. Now we need to listen to scroll event. So for the tab, I want to add event listener, and we are listening to the scroll event. For the second parameter, let's give this arrow function along with that e that represents event. So within that callback, I'm calling to function name update icons, and within that function, let's pass the argument. I'm passing e.target.scrollLeft. Before that, in our standard CSS file, let's comment out this code. And in our browser, if you scroll in your left side, that left side, it represents scroll left. But as you can see, I haven't created that function name update icons. So let's create that function name update icons. Within that, let's take that argument as scrolled width. As you can see, along with that update icon function, we have passed there some argument. So now you can write something like icons. As you can see, within that icons variables, I have already stored both left and right arrow icon, so we can access a specific icon. If I give square bracket 0, that means I'm accessing the left arrow icon. Okay, I think I have done some mistake there. I need to select span tag that is within our div with class name icon. So along with that class name icon, let's give their span within our query selector all. And I'm writing dot parent element dot. So as you know that span tags parent element, that is our div with class name icon. And as you can see, we have given their class hide for our first arrow icon. So you can write their class list dot toggle. So with the help of this method, you will be able to add and remove the class. So for the class name, let's give class hide, and for the second parameter, you could give their boolean value, that is true or false. So I want to give their condition that will return true or false. So for the condition, let's take the help of this argument scroll width, so which was given when we have scroll our tab. You can see there. So if our scroll width, if that is less than or equal to 0, but sometime when you scroll, you might get value something like 0. Extra decimal digits. So at that time, it may not work. So in order to prevent that, instead of that 0, let's give 1. So now based on this condition, it will return true or false. And based on that boolean value, we'll be able to add and remove that class hide from our div with class name icon. So once again in our browser, if you scroll, did you see that? In your left side, now we are able to show and hide our left arrow icon. So now it's time to give the same functionality for our right arrow icon, but this time there is some complex calculation, but it won't be that complicated because I want to give some explanation. I hope you will understand that. So before that, we need now two more value, that is the client width and scroll width of our tab. So for that, you could write something like tab.scroll width and client width, but whenever you need any scroll width and client width of that tab, you have to write again and again the same code. So in order to prevent that, you could use something called object destructuring. So you can write something like curly bracket, and within that you can write client width, comma, scroll width is equal to tab, and it's necessary that the property that you are accessing on that element, that must be scrollable. So as you can see in our standard CSS file, for the class tabs, I have given their overflow X to auto. So because of that property, I'll be able to scroll horizontally. As you can see for the scroll bar, let's uncomment that display to none. And in our script.js file, now you can use this client width and scroll width of our tab. But you might have questions like, what is this client width, scroll width, and also that property called scroll left. So let me show you. Let us assume that this is our browser. This is what you call scroll width, and that specific darker gray area, let's take it as client width. Suppose this is our content. Now as soon as you scroll in your left side, that specific part, it represents scroll left. Now if you add this scroll left with our client width, with combination both of them, that will give our scroll width. So keeping this concept in our mind, we can do some calculation, something like, first of all, let's duplicate the same code. Now you can change that index value to 1. So now we are selecting right arrow icon, and for that, in order to add class hide based on our condition, we need to give another condition. So for that, as you can see, you can take these both value. So now if I give scroll width minus, let's wrap all this code within small bracket, and we will add this client width plus scroll width. That is scroll width, that is the argument where we have stored our scroll left's value. So actually we are adding scroll left with our client width and subtracting from our scroll width. If that result less than or equal to 1, we'll add class height for our right arrow icon. Otherwise, we'll remove that class height from our right arrow icon. So once again in our browser, did you see that? As soon as you scroll, you will be able to show and hide that icons. Now I want something like when you click any specific tab, I want to bring it to the center, something like this. So for that, whenever you are clicking any specific tab, let's write badge dot scroll into. So with the help of this method, you will be able to scroll to any specific position. So within that, I'm passing object. Let's give key to block, and for the value you can give their center. You can give that block key whenever you are working with vertical scroll, but we are dealing with our horizontal scroll. So instead of that block, you can give inline. So in our browser, you can see when I click any specific tab, you will be able to scroll, but you can see you are directly scrolling. I mean, there is no any smooth transition. So for that, in our styled CSS file, for the class tabs, just down below that overflow, I'm giving their scroll behavior. Let's give smooth. So once again in our browser, did you see that? Now you will be able to get that smooth scrolling behavior. Similarly, I want the feature something like whenever you are clicking any specific left arrow or right arrow, now you need to able to scroll. Okay, so for that, again we need to listen to the click event whenever you are clicking that left or right arrow icon. So as you can see, we have already selected icon and I have stored that within our icons variable. So we can use the same technique that we have used for our tabs or badges. So I can copy this both lines of code and paste it down there. Now let's close these all brackets, and instead of that badge, you can change it to icon. So now as you can see, we are iterating each icon, and whenever you are clicking any specific icon, within that callback, I'm writing tab dot scroll left is equal to, I'm giving 300. So in your browser, if I click that right arrow icon, did you see that? It will scroll left to 300. But once again, if I click, you won't be able to scroll. So for that, instead of that equal to, you can give there plus equal to. So once again, in our browser, if I click that right arrow icon, now you will be able to scroll. Okay, but I want the same feature for our left arrow icon, but this time instead of adding, we need to subtract. Okay, so now we need to know if we are clicking right arrow icon or the left arrow icon. So based on that action, we need to add 300 or subtract. So in this case, using ternary operator is the best option. So for that, in the same line, I'm giving there icons.classlist.contents, and within that method, I'm passing their class. So as you can see in our index.html file, you can take the help of this span with class name called right arrow. So let's copy this class name right arrow and paste it there. So now with the help of this code, you will be able to check whether the icon that you have clicked is that left arrow or the right arrow icon. Okay, or you can give their question mark. If that is the right arrow icon, then we are giving their plus 300. But if that is the left arrow icon, then let's give their colon minus 300. So once again in our browser, if I click right arrow icon, we are adding 300, and if I click left arrow icon, did you see that? We are subtracting 300. So in this way, now you will be able to scroll smoothly and everything is working perfectly. But in YouTube, I have noticed there, when you scroll down, I mean vertically, which is our default scrolling behavior, at the time I was able to scroll. So I want to add the same feature. For that, you can select this whole code and duplicate it. Now instead of that scroll event, we'll listen to the will event. Now you can take that same scroll left code and paste it down there, and this time I want to give plus equal to e dot delta y. So when you are listening to the will event, you will be able to access this property. So now when you scroll down, did you see that? You will be able to scroll, but it is not quick enough. It's because, as you can see in our styled CSS file, we have given their scroll behavior to smooth. So we need to change that behavior. Okay, for that I can write something like tab dot style dot scroll behavior, so that must be in camel case. Behavior is equal to auto, so I am changing that scroll behavior to auto. So in our browser, if you scroll down, okay, now you can see I can scroll as fast as I can, but when I click any specific arrow icons, once again we are preventing that smooth scrolling behavior. So in order to fix that problem, whenever you are clicking any specific icons, at that time you can duplicate the same code and bring it up there. And now let's remove that auto and also that scroll behavior. So I'm just giving their tab style to empty string. So once again in our browser, did you see that whenever I'm clicking any specific arrow, you will be able to get that smooth scrolling behavior. And if you have noticed there, although I have gave there rounded corners, but in your left side we are unable to get that rounded corners. So for the div with class name slider, if I give overflow to hidden, then you will be able to get rid of that problem. Okay, did you see that? So exactly this is what I want. I think now everything is working perfectly. I do hope this project was helpful. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did learn something, smash that like button. If you have any kind of queries, let me know in the comment box. Share this video if you think someone needs it. And also, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell icon. Remember, there is always more to learn, so keep learning.